let's talk about self-doubt. This is a huge conversation that I have with so many new coaches. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't matter how long you've been coaching, it's going to show up for you from time to time. I personally have experienced it. You know, sometimes when you are coaching someone and you feel like it might be a little bit out of your depth, you can always refer someone to somebody else if they are struggling with something that you can't currently handle. So that's one reason to have some self-doubt, and that's great because then it just means that you know that it's important for your client to get the support when they need. But when you're just going through that self-doubt because maybe your marketing isn't doing too well, maybe you just had a week where you haven't practiced self-care and you're starting to feel a bit run down, if you're having self-doubt because you haven't even tried yet, then this is normal. Like, this is what happens in coaching. You know, sometimes when I would jump on, this was about 10 years ago, when I was like 4 years into coaching, this is when I really started to feel like I became more and more confident because I got deeper and deeper training and I started hanging out with more coaches. But for the first 4 years, I found myself freaking out a little bit whenever I would start a coaching session with someone. I think to myself, oh, how am I going to be able to answer these questions? How am I going to be able to ask the right questions? Right? The whole perfectionist thing came up. And so I tried to keep suppressing this self-doubt, and I tried to put on a front that I knew all the answers. And then I got to a point where I just felt so tired and I accepted that I had some self-doubt there. And I started asking other coaches, hey, do you get this? And they're like, yeah, I get this too. So this is normal. It's going to show up because sometimes it can feel like a lot to always be playing the position of the leader, but that's what people pay you for, right? So it is important for you to be able to know how to manage your self-doubt. And especially as a starting out coach, like, you don't want to be staying in that story all the time. You want to be able to feel like you're winning and growing and progressing. So acknowledge that your doubts are going to be there from time to time and accept that they're actually a natural part of the process. Okay, this is going to be the beginning steps for you. Then when you can identify the source of your self-doubt, for example, if you were to trace that feeling back, you want to ask yourself the question, what is the trigger? What's the cause here? I'm feeling this feeling. What was I thinking just before it? And if there's a concern around this, what would be the biggest concern? Is it that you're new to coaching, so you just don't know where to start? Okay, great. Then your next step is learn how to structure coaching sessions. Are you worried about not being able to help your clients? Well, great. Then you can learn how to get coaching skills, learn tools, techniques, frameworks, exercises, modalities, methodologies. All that's available to you. It's showing you and reflecting in reality. You won't feel that self-doubt if you can learn how to do these things, right? Or not as much. You're not going to feel it as much. Once you know the source of the doubts, this is when you can start addressing them. For me, it was that I just didn't have enough tools at the time to step into the areas I really wanted to. So I had to start at an entry point level with my clients and work with people that just wanted to set goals. Then from there, I started to learn how to work with the unconscious. So I started feeling more confident. I didn't doubt as much when I was working with people that were having emotional and feelings-based struggles. I felt confident to be able to support them, right? So the self-doubt is like a little signal alarm system to show you where you get to learn more and where you get to ask for support, right? You also want to challenge that self-talk that shows up, right? When you have that self-doubt, the little like negative, we call them ants, annoying negative thoughts. It's just there on your shoulder, right? Screaming in your ear. And negative self-talk can actually fuel self-doubt. So when you notice negative thoughts creeping in, what you want to do is you want to challenge them with positive affirmations or counter arguments. You can ask, like, is that 100% true? Or is this just a signal for me to learn some more things? It doesn't mean that I'm a complete failure. It doesn't mean I'm the worst coach. It doesn't mean this thing's not going to work out. It's just that there's some steps or support that I need to get or things that I need to learn in order to be able to start to minimize that self-doubt, right? You want to practice self-compassion as well when you're feeling this self-doubt. You want to treat yourself with kindness and compassion, just the way that your client would like to be treated if they were going through bouts of self-doubt, right? And remember that everybody makes mistakes. Everyone's got lessons that they have to learn, and it's okay to not have all the answers. I got to a point where I started saying to my clients sometimes, like, hey, I actually don't know how to support you with this. I'm going to find somebody that can support you with it if I really felt like I needed to refer them over, or if it's out of my depth. Or I would say, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to go do some research and get back to you, right? And obviously it felt like a risk, but like 9 times out of 10, the client would be like, yeah, no worries, that sounds good, right? Obviously you don't want to be doing it all the time, because then they're going to think, well, what's happening here? I'm paying you and you have no answers for anything. But it's okay now and then to just say, hey, you know what? I don't know the answer. I can look into that for you and get back to you, right? And you can, if you ever need to, and this is like worst case scenario, but if you ever need to refund a session because you realize in a session that you weren't able to support, that's totally fine too. You can refund that person a session and say, hey, look, I'm not able to support you in this. I can support you with, A, B, C. Is this what you'd still want support with? And if they're like, no, I really want to support with this, and you couldn't give it to them, then yeah, you can refund the session. Okay. But that will happen less and less over time, obviously. I've only refunded a session a couple times, and that was in the first year of coaching. So, you can get better. You want to get support, right? That's why we created Influential Coach. Influential Coach is the next course after this. And in Influential Coach, we have a group of typically 20 to 25 coaches in there. We're all learning from each other. We mastermind. We do live calls. I do Q&A. I've got Nash Mackey, who's my head coach, who's been working with me for 9 years now. He's in there to answer questions too. And it's a great place because any sort of doubt that you have, you can get that cleared out by getting answers, right? So it's important to have, like a group, a tribe, a mastermind like that. And then the other thing you could do in the times where you feel that self-doubt that will pop up in your coaching career as you're progressing forward is you want to look back on your successes. Okay, well, what about the sessions that did really well? What about the testimonials that you received, right? And if you don't have any of them, okay, great. Well, it means that you are still fresh, right? And you've still got more to learn, and that's totally fine because we all have to start somewhere. I'm happy that I took the chance to step in 14 years ago. And I don't like it when coaches are like comparing themselves to me that are just starting out. That's not fair. Don't do that to yourself. I've been doing this for 14 years. I don't try and compare myself to other coaches. I'm just in my lane, really focusing on, what am I proud of? What have I achieved? And how can I better my own self, right? And you'll get good in that practice too. So remember that self-doubt is natural and it's all part of the coaching journey. And with practice and support, you can overcome this self-doubt. Okay, so I hope this supports you in times of need. You might want to come back and listen to this if you're ever feeling some self-doubt come through, and jump over and join us at Influential Coach if you want to really start overcoming that self-doubt within yourself and level up as a coach.